Hi everyone, I'm Michael Muradian, Director of Business Development at Bittrex Global and the host of our video AMA. Today we're featuring Panther Protocol and our guest is Anish Mohammed, co-founder, CTO, and Chief Scientist at Panther Protocol. Thanks for joining us today. The Bittrex Global team is excited about our partnership with Panther Protocol.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So, for our AMAs, we source questions from the Bittrex Global and crypto communities regarding your listing. So, let's dive in to see what they want to know about your projects. To kick things off, we always like to learn a little bit about our guests and hear your team's story. So, can you tell our audience about what gave you the idea to create this unique project?
Sure, it's a long story. I'll try to summarize it. So I've been interested in privacy for the last 20 odd years and payments, give or take 22 plus years. So my first paid job was building micropayments for Ericsson back in 2000. I used to live in Sweden for a while, Stockholm, building crypto libraries for them. And I was always, how could I say, interested in the improvements in payments technology. At the same time, I was always interested in privacy. So I used to hang out in Skill.crypt in the late 90s and spend a bit of time as a researcher in doing research in privacy, published a bunch of papers. Also, I have some spare time interest in philosophy. So I write a paper with a good friend of mine called The New Secret, kind of describing this, information arbitrage in society and, how structures and powers are formed. So in finance, structures of powers are very, very clear, right? And this has been an ongoing problem. So what had happened is when I met Oliver, my co-founder in Mexico, we were on a panel on privacy. And I kind of described to him, look, this is how I see it. And this is how I think, the future will be. We already are in the age of surveillance economy. And when blockchains become mainstream and when DeFi becomes mainstream, you can only imagine what will happen to all the data these people can actually accumulate. And maybe there's an opportunity for us to help people if people really believe in it, right? The question is nobody can enforce anything. You can only give people the choices, right? And so that was the start of this conversation. And literally, so I then convinced one of my PhD office mates to join us as a lead cryptographer. I had worked with Vadim, my chief architect, before in a different project. I convinced him to come in. Similarly, I convinced Safe, head of products. He was, I worked with him. In summary, a lot of people I knew, I kind of convinced them because at that point in time, we didn't have any money. So all we had was, some
Yeah.
ideas and yeah, this is definitely an interesting idea. This is the tech. So I've been in zero knowledge for a while. So since 2016, I've been very, very active in zero knowledge.
Yeah.
So for me, the protocol sense was easy. Again, I've been in crypto since 2013 very actively. I was an early advisor to Ripple, was one of the people who were involved in the Ethereum swarm really early on. So yeah, I'm one of the reviewers of the Ethereum orange paper. So if you accidentally get very bored and you find the orange paper, you'll find my name next to Vitalik at a bunch of reviewers there. So for me, building protocols is a normal thing. Building privacy protocols is also a normal thing. And the thing was doing it all for myself with the team around me. Typically, I just help people design the protocol and walk away, let them build whatever they want. So this was okay, I'm going to do everything start to finish. So yeah, that's the starting story.
That's great. That's great. I appreciate that. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about the background of the Panther Protocol team now as well?
Oh, sure. So the team, you might all be surprised. The team is a very experienced team. Contrary to most teams, we have people in the late 30s and 40s.
Okay.
So a lot of experience. So our chief architect, he used to be a CFO, if I'm not mistaken, for a very large bank in one of the European countries, right? So he's in addition to being a proper techie, he understands finance. And similarly, I could give you a brief idea of our research team, so you understand how it is.
Yeah.
We have a Thiel fellow who works with us. We have a game theorist. We have 4 cryptographers in that sense, right?
Mhm.
So very, very how could I say, significantly leaning towards more experience, more expertise, and having actually worked on protocols. So it's if you combine all the number of protocols that everybody in the team has worked,
Mhm.
probably we might easily cross 60, 70. So I worked on half a dozen layer ones, right?
Mhm.
and close to 20 protocols, 18 to 20, depends on how you count, right? These are things where I worked, and some sort of official establishment of agreement was there. And unofficial will be much larger. I don't know how to count it, right? So it might be larger. People who want to admit, oh, I helped them, they can put their hand up and they can count. But in general, what it means is like we have lots of people who have a significant amount of experience in working in this. And then I managed to convince my previous collaborators to come back and join. So one of the people who joined our team, I worked with him unofficially in a zero knowledge startup in 2016. So we have people who have experience in building lots of things for a
Yeah.
very long period of time. It's like a bunch of people who have been, and we are also very flexible, and we allow people to join
Mhm.
and learn on the job. And in that sense, we also help the larger community. So and we have been collaborating with Zprice, and we have been collaborating with everybody.
Yeah.
So we are open, fair, a flexible bunch of people. I could assure you that in terms of fairness and openness, we are second to none.
Yeah.
Like we are incredibly fair and open. And I think in a very different sense, because of all the experience we have, we
Mhm.
kind of like I should give full credit to Vadim.
Yeah.
Like he has enormous patience to everybody in the team and help them with everything. I shall admit I don't have that level of patience because I have far too many things on my table. But I still allow people to ask me any questions they have to ask in that terms of my plethora of expertise and experience.
Yeah.
So very open team. Everybody in the team has a lot of flexibility, and they all have lots of experience. They've worked on lots of protocols. I mean, you can look at
Mhm.
any one of them, and most likely they would have the least done like 3 or 4 protocols, right?
Yeah.
So none of us is like a spring chicken in that sense.
Yeah.
Everybody, everybody has gone through it multiple times. So it's like,
Okay. And how
yeah.
big is the team?
Now at the tech team, I think 18 or 19. It depends on how you count
Yeah.
certain people. But we have some people who straddle. So
Mhm.
Chris, our UI UX person, I consider him a straddler. So when he works with us with things, we count him on our side.
Yeah.
When he does design on the other side, they count him on
Mhm.
their side.
Mhm.
Similarly, there are a couple of project management resources who, when we need something done, when we have some
Yeah.
external interfacing, we count them on our side because like we keep track of them. So counting essentially means like you have tasks against you in a ClickUp, right?
Yeah.
In the tech team, then you are counted as tech team. When you
Okay.
don't have
Okay.
you
Sounds
don't
fair.
have a
Sounds
task
fair.
against you, you're
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Sounds
what I think.
fair. Okay. May I ask why the name Panther Protocol? We would really like to learn more about the story behind the name.
Oh, that was a more funny story. The funny story was like when we started out, there were 4 of us. So it was Oliver, me, there was 2 other friends of ours. So and we wanted to find a name, and like we put together like in the tradition of O'Reilly books, right?
Hmm.
Proposed a bunch of animal names, and we all voted, and finally Panther got the vote. I mean, we liked the fact that Panther is an animal of the night and very secretive, and in many ways we thought that actually represents what Panther represents, like provide privacy, not very shouty, very calm, very quiet, just does things, gets away
Yeah.
with things.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. That was exciting to
Okay.
know about. Just so looking forward now, can you tell us talk us through the Panther Protocols team's roadmap for the future? Like what do some of the upcoming milestones look like for the next year as well as long term in the next 5 to 10 years?
Sure, absolutely. So the next year, I mean, I'll be very honest. I would be lying to you if I told you I know exactly what is going to happen in the next 5 to 10
Mhm.
years. I mean, as somebody who has been in this ecosystem for 10 years, I can tell you with absolute certainty what you see in the last 10 years is not going to be what you're going to see in the next 10 years, right?
Mhm.
That is a thing I can absolutely ascertain to you, right? And
Yeah.
having actually worked with various projects up to like 5 years or more than 5 years, I can tell you most people don't have a clue, and I don't have a clue either. But I can tell you what is most likely outcome, right? 5 years outcome, I can tell you what it is. But if I tell you that is exactly what's going to happen, either have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
You could just go to the market and hedge against every protocol if I knew that much of it, right? So I don't want to give everybody the wrong impression. The thing I really want to say is, from now till probably end of 2023, I have a pretty good view of what I would like to build. So we already have a shielded pool that we're going to deploy in like a week's time or so, and that is just in the start of the game. Like it's just starting out. So the game is, initially we start out with bridges between other L1s. So people who are on L1s with no native DeFi, so there's zero APY. Essentially, you are exposed to inflation, you like a 9% inflation kind of thing. So you go in with $100, end of the year you have $91 kind of situation, right?
Yeah.
Versus from there, you can go across using Panther and deploy it to a DeFi that actually has a protocol that gives you APY, which is positive APY. Essentially, what that means is you will at least have $100 at the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of what we plan to do. And again, the thing is, like, typically, if you ever deploy anything on DeFi, your strategy will disappear in no time, right? Like everybody who's watching you. So if you have something on a smart contract and you are running a strategy on a smart contract,
Mm-hmm.
what literally will happen is you can go to the graph, you figure out what address of this graph, and then you can actually copy, and like you can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
So what Panda allows you to do is to have private strategies. It allows you to have your KYC, and also if you want to submit to your IRS the set of transactions you've done, you can do that.
Yeah.
So this is literally what we are doing. So initially, what will happen right now is the initial shielded pool, which is going to be deployed within Ethereum as a layer 2 situation, like a Polygon kind of situation, where we don't have to pay that much gas charges because the ZKPs are very expensive. So that will be the first set. And then we got a bunch of grants from various people. So we got a grant from Flare, we got a grant from Songbird, we got a grant from Nia, I think we got something from Elorant, I don't know how many. So for me, immediately Flare and Songbird, immediately on the line. We've already started all the processes, so it will start out pretty soon. So day one, the first iteration will be when shielded pool is going to be released. We're most likely going to have that on Songbird. Songbird is a testnet for Flare. So once that's tested out, then the next iteration will be one end of this bridge actually attached to the one end of Flare and the other end attached to Ethereum. So that will be a private bridge that we will actually deploy across. Similarly, this pattern would continue for all L1s until a point where we can actually build and deploy the interchain DEX. So there's already a team that's being tasked with a bunch of research topics for the interchain DEX as such. So to reduce the risk of actually building it in one go, we are actually building it in bridges, right? So bridge is a bidirectional bridge. So essentially you get what you need to test all these things out and allow them to actually get some value out of it until such a point, the whole interchain DEX is up and running. So my expectation is the interchain DEX comes live, some point in 2023. And, going into the future, my expectation again is, given if you were a CFI player and you want to get into DeFi, Panther provides you with all the tools you require to do what you need to do, which is essentially KYC, selective disclosure, private strategies. What more do you want, right?
Yeah.
So, that will be my expectation. If really, DeFi takes off and CFI becomes DeFi in that sense, and private strategies are key, then Panther will be best placed for that to happen. But again, Panther protocol, asset protocol is not going to enforce any of these things, as in like KYC or selective disclosure. It's up to the users to decide what they want to do. So again, when institutions come in, institutions might have some requirements, and I don't know what their requirements might look like, and what the reaction to such a thing will be. And if that happens, it might change the way that the ecosystem evolves. Like you can look at Aave and other people, and you can actually see what's happening. So there are some indications to what can happen. So something similar might happen. But overall, my expectation is assuming there are enough of L1s built on Panther on one side, which doesn't have DeFi, assuming like 3 or 4 of the top 30. Then if you sell the liquidity across all of them, it's more than like 50 billion in that sense. If you assume a 2% adoption on that sense, that's easily like a reasonable number to go into Panther protocol as a TVR. Yeah. And that will definitely attract bigger players to come in and do things. My expectation is then institutions might or might not produce products that actually map up to Panther and use Panther for their services. So I don't know, like that will be my expectation. So the ecosystem will start off with retail and higher end retail, family offices and crypto hedge funds, and
Hmm.
then who knows, we might end up with a situation where we could actually have the real traditional JP Morgans of the world, the Morgan Stanleys of the world, or Goldman Sachs of the world coming in, right?
Yeah, interesting. So, something we pride ourselves on at Bittrex Global is the safety and security of our users. So, what are some of the ways in which Panther Protocol works to keep its users safe? Like, has your team done third-party audits and integrated smart contracts yet? And if not, do you plan to?
So you asked me about my team, right? One of the
Yeah.
things I forgot to mention is the number of years totally the team actually worked on security and cryptography.
Hmm.
Probably between all of us and the research team and some other people in the build team, we probably have more than 100 years
Wow.
easily. Okay, I had 22 years of it. Arnold has similar. Okay, he was my PhD office mate. Then Firoz has something similar. He actually ran a cybersecurity startup. He sold it to Atos, right? So just add the rest of it up, right? So
Yeah.
it's not a big deal, and all of this is verifiable. It's publicly available. So we've been doing this far too long. I am not saying that translates 100% into everything, but we are a security-minded team. We actually have ability to do internal audits and external audits both ways, right? And we have used multiple people to actually do security audits. I
Hmm.
mean, I know certain names, if I name them, might not be very impressive for people, but we actually do like two or three. And in addition, that is the thing that we end up doing is like, I know the larger ZKP community quite well. So at times I ask them favors of like, I can't name people, but
Yeah.
they are known in the community. Probably they might get, if they are listening to this. Yes, I mentioned you. I ask them favors and then they help me out. So
Yeah.
in addition to, because like I'll be very honest, for somebody to do a ZKP audit, circuit audit, I trust some of the people who happen to be my friends a lot more than anybody who's named. Okay.
Yeah.
So in addition to all of this, we have a JV with Kudavsky Security. We have a very close relationship with multiple auditors. So, we use everything that is at our disposal.
Yeah.
Try to do things as best as we can. We can't improve the security of smart contracts.
Okay.
It's solidity,
All right.
right?
Good.
So
Good.
upper bound or lower bound of security you can have.
All right. That's what we want to.
Zero knowledge, yes, zero knowledge libraries against circumsecrets. Again, same thing applies, like upper bound and lower bound and security you can have.
Yeah.
So we are aware of it. We put that into our consideration when we design things. Uh, we understand operational security, so I kind of leverage Firoj's operational security background in that sense,
Yeah.
having actually done this for like Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 before. I mean, uh, I don't have to step in, so I've done that for banks and other people before. So it's good to have people on the team who could say, can you please look at this and help us out, and you know, have a level of confidence. You could never rule out a black swan, right?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is like we've actually got a process in place. We got people in place. We have a lot of expertise in house. We actually, we really don't blindly believe in things. I think like whenever we hear something, we happily internally challenge ourselves. So before
Hmm.
we make a decision, uh, you know, we get people who have lots of experience in doing this,
Yeah.
whether it's cryptanalysis or protocol building or game theory. Get around the table, discuss it before we make a call. So that is the best we can do. We try our level best. We also use some tools, platform tools. Even before we do audits, we use them to actually validate them. We have a bunch of tool of a set of fuzzers and like all the standard things. So think of it this way: shitload of experience in Web 2, like
Yeah.
enormous experience, right? And we have a pretty good experience in Web 3. We really take everything we can get from Web 2 as free and given. We
Hmm.
apply it of what we have. And we also, are not afraid of asking our friends if we need to, if something is not available in the market or something
Yeah.
is not available in the open. So that's how we are looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Anish. Can you speak to the structure of your project, like how centralized or decentralized it is, and how do you handle governance of the project?
Okay, so I have to go back to where we started. On the white paper, there is some structures
Mhm.
that we kind of describe. So when you asked me about the project, I kind of indicated like, my expectation is for end of next year kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of alluding to there is, if you read the white paper, it is quite clear that the end game is to have a DAO, and the DAO will actually look after a lot of the things. In one sense of speaking, we are kind of influenced by Zcash Foundation kind of thing. We have a Panther Foundation, and then we will have a DAO, and the DAO will actually manage things, and there will be an entity that will be assigned to develop the protocol, and they can compete in the open for feature set and with people, and they will. So we actually got one of the things that we built is called Launch DAO. It's a private voting mechanism. So
Hmm.
we took the list of everybody that KYC, allowed them to create a private voting mechanism so they can actually vote. So, starting from day one, pretty much all of those things have been driven by voting. So you can go to the lifestyle page and you can actually see all the decisions that have been made. You can see the vote, how many percent each of them got, and how those decisions were made. So in that sense, pretty much decentralized, like
Okay.
as decentralized as you could get. But a protocol design wise, you can't actually have a protocol designed by a DAO. No way in hell, right? So I don't think no DAO in at this current let me rephrase it. To build a zero knowledge protocol, I doubt there is any DAO that has enough of expertise in has to do that in the set of consensus mechanisms.
Okay.
So I don't think that is possible. So we've tried to do the governance part as decentralized as possible. For build, there's this amount of governance and a amount of consensus that's happening. We collaborate with all the people that are around that actually are building this. So Zprice, I mentioned briefly, we collaborate with them, and similarly, we collaborate with everybody that's in the ecosystem. So that we can actually have a better chance of delivering things and have
Yeah.
better decentralization. However, the decentralization is bounded by technology, right? Like I can't have 10,000 nodes and all this kind of stuff. It's impossible for me to do. So I can only have, in that sense, a number of nodes that actually got into the protocol, and the protocol has this ability to use them as voters representing the average users of the protocol. So that is where we are. So in that sense, we are decentralized. In that sense, we have voting mechanisms. In that sense, we have proposals. In that sense, when the DAO says, sneeze, we sneeze, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's great. That's great. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what makes Panther Protocol unique, like both in terms of the competition in the crypto landscape and also in
Yeah.
terms of providing value to non-crypto customers.
Okay, so I mean, remember we were talking a couple of questions ago. I was describing, why I think Panther is going to have 5 to 10 years. They will have a real legs, and it will have even more legs. So the thing that we were describing layer ones with no DeFi and AT that to me is one clear story to have, right?
Hmm.
So in the current economy, if you are somebody in a layer one with no DeFi in an inflationary state, you would love to have something like Panther to allow you to go across from the layer one that you are in, across the you know interchain DEX or a private bridge to a layer one where there is actual DeFi that gives you yield, get some yield and come back. Right. This is literally what we are trying to do. So in a larger scheme of things, there are a couple of things that we do that really makes us unique. So for me, when I was doing the design, I looked at Tornado Cash and I kind of looked at it and kind of said to myself, I want to do it better than them in terms of security, faster than them in terms of speed, uh, better usability. Because like if you wanted to use, uh, Tornado Cash and do something in DeFi, that will be an interesting challenge, right?
Yeah.
Also in the chain support, right? And better
Hmm.
security. There are some privacy attacks. So two papers that are out there, one write-up and one paper. Both of them have been working with us. The authors of both of them have been working with us in some capacity. One is VJ. He had an analysis of, I think, the OKCoin attacker using Tornado Cash and how the person could be found out possibly by gas relays. How you have to pay. And then there's many eyes on Ethereum kind of thing that is written by Mikara. Mikara is actually somebody who consults for us, kind of a consultant for us.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I looked at all of them and then I extended it a bit. I called it a knapsack attack. Essentially, if you have like four kinds of coins, you could actually kind of guess with a high probability if a particular you know
Yeah.
collection of them is the right one. So we wanted to fix all those things, like fix all the security vulnerabilities that Tornado Cache had,
Oh, yeah.
give better usability so people could actually use this without having have to go from one, write something down, kind of stuff. Yeah, click, click, click. You should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Also, support KYC, like literally, at some points in time in different geographies, KYC, having the ability to support KYC, we are not enforcing it, right? Just to be incredibly clear. We offer the possibility to have KYC, selective disclosure. So if you so choose to do KYC, we will support you. You can run a prove verify mechanism against Panther Protocol. You can
Hmm.
verify that it's you. And then once it's done, the next step is essentially, do you want to do selective disclosure?
Yeah.
If so, go ahead and do that. So it's like could be like you come in and do transactions in say Uniswap in Ethereum, and after the year is over, you go to IRS and say these are the transactions I made, and here's my tax, whatever, right? So
Yeah.
this is how we differentiate ourselves. So we actually provide you with start off with KYC, but support to KYC, support to selective disclosure, support to do interchain index, better usability, better throughput and lower cost, right? And there
Yeah.
is some other small other bits like we also provide some amount of MEV resistance, so
Hmm.
you won't be exposed to MEVs in that sense. So small caveats, but could be useful for other people. So you can deploy private strategies. You also have this privacy mining construct where people put in pools of liquidity into places. So that allows you to do higher throughput transactions because
Hmm.
normally when you have interchain indexes, one of the problems you have is liquidity pools at the various places.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks for that, Anish. Uh, One of the community members reached out asking, how important is the community to the Panther Protocol team? Are there additional ways to get involved on top of buying the token, perhaps something like an ambassador or a referral program?
I mean, I have to admit, my understanding of the community program is kind of limited, but I know for a fact that there's ambassador program without a shadow of a doubt. I do occasional AMAs, and as I said, I'm more towards you know
Hmm.
putting it all together kind of thing. Essentially finding people. So I do most of the research. I did design of the protocol. I wrote
Yeah.
the first version of the white paper. So I am like the guy who thinks, designs, gets people, gets get things built. My co-founder is more the businessy guy. We have our L1s, and most of those were like my old, how could I say, my old relationships who were interested in working with us. So generally speaking, between the two of us, I kind of look after all the pieces which is called technology. And community wise, I am, from what I remember correctly, because of like last conversation I had with somebody who is a community manager, is like we were proposing something like this. There is definitely community ambassadors and things of that sort.
Yeah.
Again, the thing here is like understanding the protocol to me is the biggest value,
Hmm.
because Panther is still not fully understood by lots of people.
Yeah.
Once you understand the value that Panther brings to a table, you could benefit from it. As in, like, you could actually build strategies and deploy it and protect
Yeah.
the strategy from everybody else, and you make your money which is owed to you, right?
Yeah.
And secondly, the more of you who adopt it, the cost of privacy comes down, right? So
Yes.
if you have a 1 million users in Panther, organically, the cost of the transaction is already so low, because like somebody has to get 1 in million users to predict who it is that's actually doing it. So to me, the largest of the things is like, A, understand what Panther does, B, try it out as soon as it's available, C, actively participate.
Yeah.
You can't have privacy if you don't participate. Like, what do you say about democracy, right? You can't have democracy until you participate, and democracy needs privacy, right? Now
Yes.
you understand why we're doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. That was a good example. And another question we had from our users was, what do you think of the future of Web3, and how does Panther Protocol fit into that vision?
So I have to go on a rant and say a couple of things. So this would be my third or the fourth technology cycle that I've been involved in. So 2007, I dropped out of my PhD program. I got involved in the cloud. So, I was actively involved in cloud computing standards and everything. So I wrote the early version of the Cloud Security Alliance Guide version 2.1, 3 sections out of 10. I sat on the ISO committee.
Mm-hmm.
Then I worked on big data spaces, security big data. Gave my first Strata Lightning talk in 2012. So I've gone through the cycle of, cloud, big data, data science, that and all kind of crap. Then I went into drones. So I was an active member of the Adu Copter dev list.
Okay.
And again, I was interested in dynamic geofencing, did a interesting amount of work. Then I got into crypto, right? So for me, the way I think about it is like technology evolves. If anybody were to tell you, as somebody who actually has his name against all these things, right? If you Google me and put cloud, you'll see. If you Google me and put cloud security, you'll see my name and my contributions. And like lots of other places, you can't find it, but if you track it, you can find it.
Yeah.
Other people acknowledging me for what I've done. So, when you go through a lot of this, one of the things you recognize is like it's incredibly hard to know for sure that something is going to be exact and precise, right? So, in many ways, efficient ecosystem. Okay, let me walk back and describe like how evolutions normally happen.
Yeah.
If you were to go back in history and where there was this competition between the dinosaurs and the mammals to survive, the reasons that dinosaurs really couldn't compete is the efficiency question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So dinosaurs, if they wanted to move a kilometer, they had to spend so much energy, right? As a mammal, if you want to move a kilometer, the energy efficiency is so high that they could survive, right? So and there's also the flexibility they have, like because they're small, the amount of space they're required to make. So this applies for the same kind of machine learning problems and also applies to humans and also applies to protocols. So protocols can actually pivot really fast if they're nice, easy, nimble, and simple and cheaper, right?
Yeah.
So, this is exactly what's going to happen to Web3. So, Web3 is going to be this thing where you have a bunch of tool sets that's available to you, which are decentralized, has a bunch of identities attached, possibly have privacy. I'm very concerned about the privacy construct of it because, like, a lot of things seems to be built without actually thinking through the cost of privacy, right? Like, if you haven't actually read, it's worth reading the unusual effectiveness of data by a couple of guys from CMU and a
Mm-hmm.
couple of from Google. It
Okay.
kind of describes three things that's important for anybody to actually do deep learning in or machine learning in this space. One is humans to build the model. Second is the hardware to do it, and the third and the most important thing is actually the data, right? The
Yeah.
data is the mod. So Web3 essentially means it's a data house, right? You have a big fire hose of data that's coming out, right? So, to me, that is something that could actually, reduce the friction. You can do complete disintermediation. At the same time, we could actually have a very different, situation that can happen, right? The
Yeah.
data is in the hands. So, in a way, you could think of the cathedral and the bazaar situation. So, until late 1900s, late 1800s or late 1900s, if you had a castle, no cannon could actually blow the big enough holes through so
Yeah.
people get back. So there's an arbitrage between having a castle and not having a castle. So now once you no longer have the security of the castle, why would anybody pay extra taxes and levies for living inside a castle when your security is more or less the same as
Yeah.
outside? Right? And there's no restriction. It's like if you live in a castle, 10 o'clock in the night, they pull the thing out. If you're stuck outside, you're stuck outside, right? So,
Yeah.
now this question is going to be asked. So Web3 could actually make that shift. If that happens, the paradigm that we have seen until now might completely change. If the efficiency, efficiency for decentralized protocols is pretty hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just have one oracle and one entity to make a decision, it's cheap. Like if you have six people sat around, like five people, 5 factorial, right? It's much more expensive. So competing for efficiency could be a harder task. But at the same time, there's always the cost for the intermediary, right?
Yeah.
So if the cost of intermediary is going to be larger than the cost of efficiency, right?
Mm-hmm.
We might be able to do what is required, and we might actually have a breakthrough.
Okay. Thanks for that, Anish. And for our final question, what is the best way that our community members can get involved with the Panther Protocol project?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the easiest of the things to start with was we have a Telegram group, we have a Discord group. Telegram is the easiest of the two. You can turn up, talk to us. There will definitely be a bunch of AMAs that will be happening. We also are active in various, zero knowledge community spaces. Z Price is one of them. We probably will be sponsoring the ZK Summit as well. We would probably be doing a bunch of hackathons as soon as our code base is public. So there are lots of things that's actually happening that other people can actually come and contribute and interact with us. We would welcome in all of those, and it is an open community. So I don't know, like the doors are open. We are not a castle. We definitely work in the model of a bazaar. So walk in, find the wares you like interesting. As I said, most people in the team are very helpful, very nice people. It's just that if somebody doesn't respond, it's just that they're just very, very busy. So
Yeah.
generally speaking, somebody will respond to you if you ask a question, and generally all of us are happy to answer questions if asked in the right way, right? If somebody shouts and calls people names, I don't think that will get the right kind of response. If you ask in a very objective manner, respectfully,
Yeah.
you will definitely get answers. You will get explanation. There will be people there to help you through what is happening, tell you exactly what is happening. We have no business of bullshitting anybody. So in short order, we will be publishing a whole bunch of GitHub and other things. So it's like it should be everybody should be able to see what is going on, what you have actually done, what you've achieved. We've achieved a lot more than our white paper had put, first version white paper has actually put down. So in that sense, you should always be pleasantly surprised on what we have achieved. So, you coming in and asking us something will be most likely, if you find the right people, they'll be so happy to talk to you that then I will have to intervene to get them off to go do their work. So, don't do too
Yeah.
much, but I would love for you to talk to them because, it really gives them a positive feedback. And like in UI and UX, the same thing, like, they are very keen to understand people's feedback. As soon as all of this is out, we would welcome any feedback people give. I mean, it could be like you might come across some use case you think is useful for Panther to know. Let us know. If you find something that you think is not really working for you, let us know. If you think, okay, you think you have the right kind of skills to join our team, let us know. We will definitely love to have good people join us. The only criteria we have in that sense is like integrity, which is like, we want people who actually tell us what has really happened. And so you can expect the same thing outward as well. Like, we'll tell you what has really happened. We don't, we have no space in the team for people who don't have integrity. And we obviously like smart people, which is a given. Given what we do, we really need smart people.
Yeah.
And then, competence is the third thing. And the thing with the competence is competence could be learned, right? First two, you kind of have very limited ability to change much of it. If you don't have integrity, you don't have integrity. There is very little you can actually do to improve your integrity. If you're not smart, you're unlikely to get any smarter as you grow older. In that sense, you lose your IQ points, according to what I understand, right? Could be wrong, but that's what I've read. So, so the thing is, you will definitely improve your competence. But the first two are very important for us. We really want people who have integrity. We really want people who are smart. We really are open to having people with competence, happy to teach them. But that's how we see it. Like, this is definitely going to be a protocol that's owned by the public in that sense, in a DAO, right? So it's your protocol. We are just the custodians. The way I see it is like we are like foster parents from now till 18 or 21, whatever that is. We have to just take it from this point to that point. Once it's our own, like the people who will be involved in the protocol are the users of the protocol. They absolutely have the right to do whatever they want. I mean, I don't think the team that built the protocol will have much of an ability to change anything. So, it's your protocol. Do what you think is best for the protocol. Not just for you, but for the protocol, for humanity. That will be, I'm sure, compensated and appreciated by everybody in the long run.
That's great. Thank you, Anish, for joining this AMA today. We learned a lot more about Panther Protocol, and we're very excited about partnering and for the future of ZKP token. And if our viewers want to learn more about Panther Protocol, please go to www.pantherprotocol.io. And thank you again, Anish and Panther Protocol team. We appreciate having you with us today.
Yeah, just one thing.
Yeah,
It's a TPS, right? We have disabled the normal one, so it's only secure. You asked me the question about how could we keep it secure. So that's a
yeah,
secure one. It's
yeah.
HTTPS,
Perfect.
protocol.io.
Perfect. Thank you
Okay,
for letting
thank
us
you very
know.
much.
Yeah, great having you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank